say you're not involved. Don't try to convince yourself that these problems don't affect you at all. Because now it's Lebanon, Azania, Grenada. How many more? Tell me now. How many more? Don't you stand on the sidelines and watch your children go off to war. Don't stand back and wait for this violence to come to your door. Because now it's Chile, Guatemala, El Salvador. How many more? Tell me now. How?
Peace and love. Welcome to U.S. Political Prisoners and You on the Black Power Media channel on YouTube. If you're looking at it on Facebook, thank you for your time. I know the importance and the value of it. Today's episode will be dealing with the Black Panther Party newspaper. This is Black Panther history. I have my guest, but before I bring her on, I just want to brief everybody on the turnout of Curb Fest. Curb Fest in South Jamaica, Queens was great. It was important. I think it inspired the community to raise the question about political prisoners, and a number of people who are from their community who were political prisoners, and even one who still is a political prisoner. So doing that was necessary because this is an idea that people are not often exposed to. So that was very important that we got that done. We took pictures, we shared. So if you're on social media and you happen to see the picture, please share it. Hashtag CurbFest 2025. Hashtag Don't Let Political Prisoners Die in Prison. Hashtag Free All Political Prisoners. So the Black Panther Party, a newspaper also called the Black Panther Intercommunal News Service, Black Panther Black Communities News Service, and Black Community News Service was the official newspaper of the Black Panther Party. It began as a 4-page newsletter in Oakland, California in 1967 and was founded by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale. It was the main publication of the party and was soon sold in several large cities across the United States, as well as having an international readership. The newspaper distributed information about the party's activities and expressed through articles the ideology of the Black Panther Party, focusing on both international revolutions as inspiration and contemporary racial struggles of African Americans across the United States. It remained in circulation until the dissolution of the party in 1980. You had a number of people come together on a committee to do the writing. You had what's his name? Emory Douglas. He was the graphic designer. He did an excellent job. As pictured on the background, you see the brother holding a newspaper, and I think that this was very important too because it amplified the message. But without further ado, I just want to bring on my guest today. Hey, sister, peace and love. You hear me?
Peace, my brother. Of course, yes. How are you?
Yes, everything is good. Glad that you have the opportunity to come on. I know your time is not available often, so I'm very happy that you got to come on. So I don't want to keep you waiting too long because I know you're a very busy woman. So I just want to get right to it. Please introduce to the people. You're my sister. I know you for some time now, but there's some people who don't know you. So just let them know who you are and a little bit about your background in journalism.
So, peace, but I appreciate you having me on, reaching out to me. My name is Nayaba Arinde. I am a journalist based in Brooklyn, actually. But I was first with the Daily Challenge, the city's only Black daily. In fact, I think the nation's only Black daily. Worked there for a number of years as a senior writer. Did many stories on the political prisoners and activism, grassroots activism at that. Actually, I'm from England, as you can tell, Nigerian, England. In England, I worked as an editor. I worked at the BBC. I was a columnist. Did a lot of mainstream work, and I was an activist in the street also. So when I came to New York, I did the same thing. I started working at the Daily Challenge. I would say I'm an activist first. Did many stories on the movement, on people in the movement, from El Alamein and Mamia, of course, and the political prisoners dinner and Herman Ferguson, people like that. Did a lot of work with the movement, still do. Um, then I was at the Amsterdam News for 18 years, and they, in my opinion, seemed to want to change direction a little bit, and so we parted ways in 2023. I now write mostly for Our Time Press, sometimes a Final Call and Essence magazine, as well as doing other work with the Senate. So that is my story. As I said, I'm an activist first. I know Frank from the movement, you brother. I know you from the movement, of course. I'm a big believer in Black journalism and Black media, and supporting the Black press in all angles, including learning our history about the Black press. And of course, the Panther paper was very instrumental in forming a foundation of how, well, not forming, continuing a foundation, I would say, of being an activist media, citizen journalists, reporting for the people, to the people, about the people in all angles, reporting news that gets ignored by the mainstream. We still do that till to this day. Stories that are really big in our community gets ignored by the mainstream or twisted in a different kind of way. So as an editor and a reporter on my old newspapers, I've always seen fit to report our stories, whether the mainstream take them or not. If they're important to us and they need to be told, but from our angle. And it's not always the populist angle either. We talk about issues that nobody else wants to touch. But if it's happening in our neighborhoods and our people care about it, then we should talk about it. And the Panther paper, that was their theme too. It was like, we can tell our stories better than anyone else. And if the mainstream ignore us, so what? We've got our own press, we tell our own stories, we have our own journalists, our own photographers. And the mission, I think, of the Black Panther paper was to do just that. Report on our stories, tell stories from our perspective, and get the work done. So I feel like I continue that angle, Frank. I'm very, very passionate about the Black media and telling our stories, even when it goes against the grain, even when it's not the popular position. If it's our position, and we're not a monolith, I understand that. But if you're grassroots, then you already know what it is. You're not going to be popular. You're not going to be, getting invited to those big dinners because you're talking against what they want to, the status quo maybe. And so I believe that we tell our stories where we should tell them. And I've always believed that. And I think the Panther paper was about that. Mission was about telling our stories from our perspective, from our viewpoint, with our mission in mind.
Absolutely, because it seems like you answered most of what I said was going to ask you the first question, but it's all good because that's the point of us having this dialogue is to
Yes,
engage in
sir.
conversations that's going to stimulate people's mind as they look into the past and see the importance and the significance of what was done during that time. Because the Panther said cease the time, and that's exactly what they did. And not only did they cease the time, but they documented the time. And now when we go back and study history, now we become inspired to do what we need to do during this time. Because my question was going to be, how does the knowledge of the Black Panther Party newspaper affect you? And I think that you pretty much said that. But if you have more to add to that question, please do.
Sure. I mean, the fact that they were fighting against the system and still documenting it, it was bravery to me and courageous. And it means that we can go back and read those stories. I met Bobby Seale once, and we spoke for a
Wow.
long time. He told me, one of the things he said was, the day the paper came out, the mainstream Black political electeds were very nervous because they didn't want to be on the page that said something. I think it was something like not Negro of the Week, but something like that. And you don't want to be caught on that page because it means you did something real foul against the grassroots that they're now going to identify you for. And so I've always remembered that, and I've always thought we could do that in our papers. Have betrayal of the week or whatever,
Wow.
sellout of the week, something like that. But the fact that they would do that, and the things what I notice when I write, when I've written articles and have exposed things that Black electors have done, they will call and say, "Did you mean? I hope you didn't mean me, Naya. Yeah, I meant you." Because what you did last week
Wow.
was foul. Let me tell you why. And so I would write those stories, and you didn't want to be caught in that vein. So Bobby Seale said to me, "Yeah, you didn't want to be caught on that page because it means that you did something that they've identified, they've now told the world about, and you've got to explain yourself. You have to be accountable to the people." And so I think that the paper, and at one point actually, when Khalid was still with us, he asked me to reestablish the paper. And so I
Okay.
did a mock-up version of the paper. And
Wow.
for whatever reason, it never came to fruition. But I did work on the Black Panther paper for a second, and the stories were those stories that don't get told elsewhere, or don't get told the way that the mainstream want them to be told, but the way we need them to be told. And so I do believe that there's writers in anybody and everybody. Anybody can be a writer to a degree. And if you have a story to tell, then tell it, especially when it's against what's being forced down our throats in the mainstream, corporate, organized and controlled media. So I'm always forever grateful to the Panthers and the work they have done and how they laid the foundation. And still, until to this day, there are many still amongst us that we can talk to and ask them about back in the day and what was necessary, what was done. So to keep inspiring the young people, to keep inspiring those who can still do the work, that's what we should do. And the media is the first thing they come for in revolution, right? They come for the media because they know the power of the word is everything, and getting out the messages is everything. And even when they are diluted, as they have been, we have other mediums like this one, Brother Frank. We have our
Yes,
own ways of getting the message out, and we must
absolutely.
continue. So, to answer your question, the Panther paper inspired me to continue the work of speaking for the grassroots and to the grassroots.
And you've been doing that work continuously. I know that we go back a couple of years. I know at one point, out of the December 12th movement, Coltrane Chimarenga had brought some brothers together, and they had the AB4SD, African Brotherhood for Self-Determination, and they had an article celebrating the anniversary of that organized force. And you would put it in the newspaper. So that allowed the community to know what was going on and know that there was a distinction between complaining and organizing, right? Many people complain about what's happening, but now you have people actually going on the street, taking initiative to do something. People who are not being paid, but who are driven because of their political consciousness. Um, my next question was, how important is a newspaper to an organization? So see, that's where I was leading to.
It's vital because you have to get your message out to the people. You have to be able to say to your collective, your echo chamber, if you like, here's what the mission is. Here's what we've do. Here's what we've done. Here's what we're about to do, and here's what you can do to participate. You have to control the narrative because if they control it, guess what? You're the loser, right? You're the perpetrator. So you always have to control the narrative of your own story. You have to. It's important. So without media, whether it's radio or YouTube or a podcast or whatever it is, you got to control your own narrative because they say what it is if the hunter wins, right, every time. So we've got to be those who are turning around and turning on the mission in terms of what their mission has been towards us. It's because it's still nothing's changed but the date. I say that all the time. Nothing has changed but the date. So we're still in a fight. Do not think because you got older, or you got a great big job, or you got a nice big house,
Yes.
that they've changed towards how they see us. They have not, and they show you each and every time. So to control our own stories, to tell them so our people can believe in what we're saying, and know that if I want to know what's going on, let me tune into Brother Frank on a Wednesday. Let me find out what's going on in the neighborhood. Let those
Yes.
behind the wall also hear the messages. They need to hear it too. And so we have to become reliable, trustworthy news outlets for our people, from the people, of the people, for the people, right? So that's what I think we can never imagine that we allow the mainstream to tell our stories. Imagine if they were like, say, you know what, this thing's going on in the hood. I think I should put it into the New York Daily paper. No, you can if you want to, but if
Right.
it's a grassroots initiative, it's a movement, it's an action, it's got to be us that tells our own stories each and every time. Who can do it better other than us?
Absolutely. That is very important because a lot of times when our people see that there's something happening, they wondering where their voice is at, who's speaking for them, who's doing
Yes.
something, who is taking their position. And I think when they read an article that is speaking about them and is speaking for them, then now they feel inspired to stand up, to fight back, to just be committed on whatever level that they can be. So that's important, and looking at the Black Panther Party's newspaper and knowing that they had over 500 articles written, and Emery Douglas, he did a great job being a graphic designer, and that image, those images really amplified the message of what was going on. And I think that people now understood that more because people of African descent, we do things with a rhythm. We have to add a lot of color to things that lets us feel more in tune and connected to those messages. And he did an excellent job with that. Um, My question was like, my next question, excuse me, is how can a newspaper aid into the fight to free U.S. held political prisoners?
So they have to be able to be open to that the political business. Let them know they can send us articles, they can send op-eds, they can send requests. They that paper will then become the voice for those folks behind the wall, the political business. But we can highlight that they're still there. We can tell the stories because America would tell you they don't have any. So at the Amsterdam News, well, most of the Daily Challenge, actually, I think I told the stories a lot, and I went to the political prisoner dinners, and they were great, and I spoke about them before they happened, when they happened, after they happened. It was great, and so the community need to look to the paper for those stories, and also to find out what was going on with the folks behind the wall. We have to be able to tell the stories because they will get buried in it didn't happen. They're not. It
Yes.
doesn't exist. If we don't tell those stories, guess what? Most folks don't even know they exist because it's not told anywhere else. So our mediums has to be the largely unpopular, if you like, stories that they don't want to tell. So we
Yes.
tell our stories because they needed to be told. Who else but us? And if the political business can know that they can write to the paper and call you if they're able to, send you messages and it gets told, it gets reported as they said it, what better? They have to be available to them to be able to tell their stories. Or if they cannot, we should do it for them. Like with Mamiya. Mamiya is able to call into events sometimes, but when he's not, we should do that for him. Those who go to visit someone like Mamiya, tell the stories. Be bold, be courageous, don't be unafraid. Let the words be told. And then, our community, when they hear, you know what, Mami is still in there, or whoever it is, whichever political listener it is, they don't know unless we tell them. Because where else is the story being told, Frank? Nowhere. So our medium is almost, it's not the most important, but it's essential.
Yes,
That
the
our
lifeline to the
medium,
community.
right? We're the link between
Yes.
what they're going through, what has happened to them, how long they've been, how are you behind the wall for 30, 40 years, and nobody talks about you, and your stories are not
Absolutely.
being told. So we have to. That's our duty. We have to. We must, as best we
Uh,
can.
Absolutely. Our newspaper is a way to combat against a number of distractions happening because we got our cell phones, we getting a number of things on our cell phones. But when we have our newspaper, now we could put it into the face of our community about this is going on. So I just want to take some time out to let people know this is what's going on. It's coming up November 28th to December 9th is a March for Mamiya. You go to marchformamia.org. You can also email marchformamia@gmail.com. There's also a phone number 862-240-6589 because we got to always let people know that there's an action taking place. I was just
Yes.
with the organization for Mamiya, and they was talking about his health status. So in order for us to give him an opportunity to come home and not die in prison, we got to be continuous with this work. We got to use whatever platforms we can to get that done to make sure that that's happened. So I just want to let me go move to the next question. My next question is: what is the newspaper's responsibility to support in the fight to free U.S. held political prisoners? I don't know if those are the same questions or not, but I think that the emphasis is have to be put on those who are responsible for editing the newspapers, those who are responsible for reporting on the current state of political prisoners, because they are political prisoners. They're not terrorists. They're captured freedom fighters. So, what's your view or what's your answer to that particular question, my sister?
So I would say that a lot of the black press has been decimated over the years, both economically and politically. And some papers that we have decided to go what I call they've gone a more genteel route to absorb the intentions of the how can I put this now? The gentrifiers. And
Hmm.
so they may or may not, some papers may not even take those kind of stories anymore. But those that do, they have a responsibility to the community to tell the stories of the political prisoners. But they'll only do so if there's pressure from the community. If we as residents, citizens, whatever, say, you know what, so and so is in jail, it's been 40 years, 30 years, whatever, and they have an ailment and they need to come home, pressure to your elected officials or to whoever, to the newspapers, mainstream also will get that story told. We have to pressure them to to pay attention. So the responsibility of a newspaper is to tell stories that they may not want to initially investigate. They will do so under pressure and phone calls. When I used to be at a paper in England, we would take one letter as 1,000, because it says
Wow.
one person wrote the letter, but 1,000 really wanted to. So if you one phone call, one letter, one email, one DM, whatever, will make them pay attention. If there's two, three, or four, they're like, wait a minute. These folks are talking about this person in behind the wall. What's the story? Go investigate. It's real simple. All you got to do is make a phone call or send an email, and do it on a consistent basis, and they'll start paying attention, because they really don't want to talk about it. But if there's a concerted effort from the community, they will. With the black press, it's a little easier, at least it should be, because they already know most of the stories. They have an idea, and if they don't, get to know. So all we do is put the pressure in the media and make a phone call to the editors, and say, this is a story that we're interested in. Can you look and find out what's going on with this person? They've been behind the wall for 20, 30, 40 years. They're an elder. They have an ailment. Even if they don't have an ailment, it's time. And just put the pressure. The community has a responsibility too, to make the black press, the mainstream press, whoever, to look into the cases and the stories and bring these folks home.
Right, because if you are standing for the people, if you represent the people's interests, and you're supposed to be about, documenting or writing the issues that concern them, then political prisoners is one that you need to be advocating for. For enough of us are putting pressure on them, because this is the part of the segment where we talk about organized action, a commitment to actually taking the initiative to do something. And that's why we putting out the call to tell people to call up your newspaper, tell them to write about Mumia, tell them to write about Kamal Siddiqui, tell them to write about Joy Powell, tell them to write about political prisoners, because we don't want them to die in prison. They are not terrorists. They are not criminals. They are captured freedom fighters, and they represent us. One of the things that I learned when I was preparing myself to do podcast episodes is that the probation officer and the parole officers are classified as defenders of the community. So if you're a defender of the community, you're supposed to speak on the behalf of the community. You're supposed to have this relationship with the community and ask them, is this person helpful to you or hurtful to you, right? And I think that, when we start knowing that these people are supposed to be acting on our behalf, we need to make sure that they're doing what we tell them to do. And the same goes to the newspaper, right? The newspaper is supposed to speak for us. So now we have to make the issue of political prisoner an issue. I know, I remember when you put out the article on Matulu coming home, and one thing that you did was that you actually printed what the people who are responsible for his release said, and how they talked about he was sick and how he wouldn't have no chance to do no criminal activity. And it made me think about Roots, and when Kunta Kinte's foot was cut off. I just like, wow, and I salute you for that, because you gave me the reality of the state, and you let me know that, wow, these people are very vicious and brutal. But I think that, it still was a people victory for him to come home, because he didn't die in prison. And exactly. I think those victories need to be talked about, and we need to find inspiration for doing that moving forward. What's your thoughts on what would you tell a newspaper regarding what would you tell people to do when it comes to their newspaper and making that demand to write about political prisoners, and how should they go about it? I know you spoke about it more, but I just want you to put some more emphasis on it, so we could give people their marching orders before we end this episode.
Right, so we claim no easy victories, right? But we celebrate the real victories. And so Mutulu, came home. Asada died free.
Yes.
We lost a sister, but she died free. And so we celebrate our victories, and we celebrate the commitment to these our freedom fighters who've gone through all kinds of hell, because they were part of the movement in support of us, right? So let's not forget what they have done and why they're there. You write to your newspaper, you call them, you email them, you form an organization, or you form an action, I should say, to say, okay, this week it's so this person, next week it's the other person, and you make sure they understand that the community is asking on behalf of these individuals for at least acknowledgement. After acknowledgement, we want action. After action, we want freedom, right? So it's got to be a concerted effort to try and get these folks home That's the plan. But before you can do that, you've got to get them acknowledged by the media. As you pointed out, these papers rely on the community to buy them, right? Or give them eyes on their webpage, whatever, social media. We are in control as a community. The community controls that part. So you can tell them what issues you want to be spoken about. Right now, this is about political prisoners, which they very rarely acknowledge. So if there's a concerted effort from the community to make that the case, then they will. They might not want to, but you can make them just by writing, calling, as I said, making them aware that there's an effort to bring folks home. And so we have that responsibility. There are some journalists, a lot actually, who will do that for us and with us. There are. You just got to identify them and let them know that's what people want to. Publishers get printed what they think people want to read. If they know there's a market for this news, trust and believe, they will start talking about it. But when they do that, you've got to make sure it's at the correct perspective and the correct angle. Otherwise, they'll be talking about the so-called crime as opposed to the individual and how long they've been behind the wall, and it's time to come home. You've got to write the request in a very specific way. We need them home. They've been away from their families for decades. It's inhumane. Bring them home.
Absolutely. I was just thinking about there's this deli called Gaza Deli in Queens that I spoke to one of the employees there, and they had an article that was put out by the New York Post, and the article he thought was going to be in favor of them, but it actually was something undermining what they were standing for and the whole Palestinian struggle for liberation and to eradicate the whole process of genocide taking place. So you just made me reflect on that. And that is very important, right? We got to make sure that these newspapers saying exactly what we want them to say. And that's why the Panthers newspaper is so important. And, there was a newspaper for Mumia Abu Jamal called Jamal Journal. And that was very important because it allowed people to understand what was happening. It was done very professionally, and they had a number of copies that was printed, and it allowed his voice to be heard in different places. Right. So now you have these elected officials that might get a copy. Now, if you're standing for the people and you're standing for justice, then what's your position when it comes to our political prisoners? And what are you going to do? And we want to hear exactly what's in our benefit. And that was important because you see the work of Charles Barron and Inez Barron, and Charles Barron always took a position when it came to political prisoners. He visited Jalil Abdul King a number of times. He wrote on their behalf. And so, you have examples like that. And I think that that's important because it allows us to understand that there are somebody out there that wants to do the right thing when it comes to political prisoners. You got to find them. You got to build those allies, and you have to be continuous with that.
Exactly.
From your experience in dealing with elected officials, what was some of your experiences as far as when it came to political prisoners, and how did you get them to take a position on that, if you remember?
Even address it, but I remember going to Albany with Herman Ferguson and addressing some of the electeds, and the majority of them did not want to talk to us. But when they did, they said, "Oh yeah, it's really bad that so and so's in prison for this long, and it's really awful." And at least I got a comment from them saying that on the public record. But like you said, really, it's like Charles Barron and Inez Barron have been the mainstays in this. Most people don't even want to talk about it, Brother Frank. They don't. But make them. Ask them. The elections are coming up. Ask them. What's your position on H. Rap Brown, Alamin? What's your position on Amir? And ask them. And they'll be like, wait a minute. Make them think about it. Make them respond to you. Remember, they represent you, right? So make them ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask the question, and do it left field when they least expect it. So they're like, oh, wait a minute, I've got to think about this issue. I hadn't thought about that. They will research it, get some talking points on it, and give you a response. It's up to us to make them respond. That's whether it's the media or the elected, the community. The power is in your hand.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you giving us our work to be done because, this platform is about talking and having discussion, but it's also about committing
So
ourselves to
thank
organized action. So now we got some work to do. And thank you, my sister. Appreciate your time. Continue to do your work as I know you will. And I'm always a phone call away. Peace and love, sister. What's the call? Free them
well,
all.
thank you. Are you there?
Now I said you probably can't hear me now. We probably have some last minute or last second technical
Okay.
difficulties. But I
What
said, what's the call? We said free them all. So we say, don't let political prisoners die in prison. Peace and love,
and the work
sister.
that you're doing?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sail the sea, Indians live proud and free before the oppressor's slavery. Black people live proud and free. How many more? Tell me now. How many more? Don't you stand on the sidelines and say you're not involved. Don't try to convince yourself that these problems don't affect you at all. Because now it's Lebanon, Azania, Grenada. How many more? Tell me now. How many more? Don't you stand on the sidelines and watch your children